Greetings, Bat family, and welcome back to Holy BatCast, brought to you by Real Fans for Real Movies. Visit our website, holybatcast.com, or find us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or YouTube. Just search for Holy BatCast, you will find us. And if you love the show, you want to help support the show, you can do that on Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/holybatcast. As always, a huge thank you to our patrons. You guys are amazing. You don't have to do it, and I do appreciate those of you who have done it. It really means a lot. And I got to give a shout out to a new patron. Yes, I do. So this episode is lovingly dedicated to Mr. Joel Eckhart, who just became a patron for Holy BatCast. So, you know what I want to say? I want to say, get me Lieutenant Eckhart. Except it's Lieutenant Joel Eckhart. Anyway, Joel, so sweet. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate that. And happy holidays. Thanks for being a patron. And all you other patrons out there, I love you guys too. I'm not going to name you all by name, but know that I'm thinking of you all by name individually. I love you guys. So thank you. And if you haven't pledged, you know what? I don't even know. That's okay. Ignorance is bliss. But thank you to our patrons. You guys are amazing. We are a proud part of the Real Fans Podcast Network. You can check out all those shows at rf4rm.com. And as always, I am your host, Andy DiGenova. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. It's just my name, Andy DiGenova. Now, this episode, we're finally going to be reviewing the comic miniseries of Batman 89. I was trying to think of the right way to say it, but yeah, comic book miniseries. That's accurate. It wrapped up finally in July, and we've been meaning to get around to it. And guess what? The day has come. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. And joining me for that, it ain't Brendan, it ain't Jamie. It's another friend of the show. You've heard his voice here. You've heard his voice over on The Fire Rises. All around nice fella. It's Mr. Joe Fornarotto. Hey, Joe.
What's going on, Andy? Thank you very much for inviting me on for this.
Thanks for making the time when the deadbeat co-hosts of mine can't.
Hey, their loss is my gain.
See? Exactly. There you go. Keep it up. And Brendan will just be someone we used to know.
And there'll be a little less talking from my end on this one because, Brendan loves to talk. So this one...
Yeah, I know, blah, blah, blah. But it's good to have you back.
I hope I'm a little easier to understand, too.
You are. I appreciate it. I don't have to put on captions to translate.
No bleeping, hopefully.
Yeah, and no bleeping, right? Just that foul mouth. Always with the nasty words. I can't take it. Anyway, we are going to talk about Batman 89. Thanks for making the time, Joe. And before we get to that, though, I should also mention we're also going to finally review the next episode of The Batman. You guys thought we forgot, and that's because we probably did. But we're finally back around to it. We're going to do the next episode 3 of The Batman, trying to get back into the swing. So fun stuff ahead. Batman talk. We love it. But before we do all of that, I've got to give another shout out and a big ol' thank you for the holidays to our pals over at Manscaped. It's December. The holidays are coming. They're going to be here before we know it. And if you're going to do some gift shopping, I can't recommend anyone better than Manscaped. But if you're going to buy something from Manscaped, which you probably should because they got good stuff, please use the promo code BATSCAPED, 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 for 20% off and free shipping. Because that way you save a little money and you're helping Holy BatCast in the process. But right now, picking out gifts can be stressful. It can be tough. But Manscaped's got you covered. They got all kinds of nice things for your male grooming needs. So whether you buy something for yourself or another man in your life, they got nice trimmers, they got nice body wash, they got nice shampoo, they got nice deodorant. I'm running low on deodorant. I got to order some more myself. They got good lip balm. I told you last time the lip balm saved my booty when I was in Illinois, freezing my butt off. I don't miss that. But all their stuff is really good. It smells really nice. The lip balm has like a nice, mild, minty little thing going on. So they have great products. They have nice little packages where you can get a sampling of different things if that's what you want to do, or you can buy a la carte. Doesn't matter. But the trimmer is the best you're going to find. And again, all the other products that they've been nice enough to send, I've been happy with all of them. I use them daily and they're terrific. So they're great ideas for gifts. And again, you get that discount. You get 20% off and free shipping if you use that Batscaped promo code. And I don't know if they're still having markdowns right now. I haven't checked since, a couple weeks, but just remember, if it is marked down on the site, it's very possible. And you can still get 20% off with Batscaped. So the savings. You can't beat it. So yeah, go to manscaped.com, do a little shopping, buy yourself something nice or buy something nice for someone you love. They will appreciate it. And it's actually a useful gift. It's a gift that they can actually put to use, not something they'll just throw away or forget about. So go to manscaped.com. But again, use that promo code BATSCAPED for 20% off and free shipping. We would really appreciate that. Now, moving forward to the main event at hand, Batman 89, the very first issue was released August of last year. And then it took 11 months for it to wrap up. And now it's been, gosh, almost 6 months since then. So we thought it was time that we would look back at now the entire story, now that we've been able to read it from beginning to end. So without further ado, it's time to dig into Sam Hamm and Joe Quinones', oh, that's a tough one, their comic miniseries of Batman 89. All right, I got my hardcover right here of Batman 89, but I will say the title makes it very tricky trying to differentiate since so many people refer to the film as Batman 89. So now got to put all these disclaimers. But yes, Batman 89, the comic book miniseries, written by Sam Hamm. Artist is Joe Quinones. The colorist is Leonardo Ito. Letters by Clayton Cowles. And yeah, it is our extension of the Burtonverse. Picks up where Batman Returns left off. 6 issues, but now very handily put together in one hardcover volume that I'm holding in my hand. The most fun surprise, Joe, was what happened when you took off the slip cover. Did you get this?
Well, I think either you shared it or Jay Yaws shared it on Twitter. And man, the minute I saw that,
I think Jay told me because I got it and I posted it and I didn't even take off the slip cover. And he goes, "Have you taken it off?" I'm like, "No," because I just assumed it was the same thing.
yep,
No, ma'am.
it is beautiful. And the Superman one is the same way.
Yes, it's awesome. The Superman 78 one. So what a great touch is that the actual hardcover, when you take off the slipcover, looks like the VHS tape of Batman 89. And it's just, what a great touch. Just so cool.
And they didn't rewind. It's about halfway done.
You're right. We're right in the middle. We're right in the middle of the Flugelheim Museum sequence. That's about the halfway point of the movie, right? So yes, it has been collected into a hardcover. If that's your jam, you can buy the separate issues. If that's your jam, you can have them digitally. If that's your jam, and as it turns out, all 3 of those things are my jam because I got them all. That's why they do it. That's how they get you.
And it should be on Infinite by the end of December.
I think that like everything but the final issue is, right?
It was June. It was the end of June. So it'll be on Infinite by the end of December. If you have Ultra, it's already there.
Okay. Well, because when I talked to Jamie about doing this, he literally said that. He goes, "Oh, well, the last issue isn't on the app yet, so count me out." Because he didn't want to buy it.
It wasn't in the discount dollar bin on iTunes.
Stingy,
so he was
stingy. Yeah, he'll buy Driving Miss Daisy for $4.99, but he won't buy the Batman 89 final issue. Priorities, Jamie. You're on notice too with Brendan. Both y'all. Go sit in the corner. I will say this, though, before we get into the comic itself, is because of the weird ass release schedule. Like, it was coming out regularly, and then I felt like there was like this huge gap between issues. And guys, friends at DC Comics, stop doing this because this is how you lose people. Because people people lose track. I lost track. I didn't read the end of this until last night because I lost track of it because there was this huge gap where they didn't release the new issue. And I was like, I kind of moved on. I forgot about it. And then by the time they did, I was like, oh shit, I got to go back to that.
Yeah, I read it when they were coming out, but I think when like issue 4 released, I'm like, well, I'm not reading that because I don't remember issue 3, and I might as well wait till 5 comes out. And then I remember going to pick up 5 at the comic shop, and I didn't even realize it was out yet. Like, it was such a terrible release schedule, and it really did just kind of it took the wind out of the sails for the book.
Yeah,
like
it did. It killed the excitement. It killed the hype.
Yeah.
And I feel like when the first couple issues came out, Bat fans were talking about it. And then it went quiet to the point where
Mhm.
I didn't even realize when the final issue came out. And I think it's not just because of people who didn't like the book, which we'll talk about. There's certainly been mixed responses, but I think it's that. It's like when there's this huge gap of a couple months where it's like, what the hell happened to the next chapter? And then yeah, you forget about it and it really kills the excitement.
So wow, so between 4 and 5, it was November 30th of 2021 to April of 2022.
There you go. That's insane.
And then
That's six
another 2
months.
months for yeah, and then it was June for the 6th issue.
Yeah, that's
That's
ridiculous.
crazy.
I agree. Yeah. And that'll do it. A 6 month gap between issues. Guys. That's just bad business.
Yeah, and that's when I fell off. Was in between issues 3 and 4, I think, because
Of
it
course.
just
Same thing. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, because I will say, just getting us started, and like when they announced this, this is something that we'd all, as fans, have been asking for years, especially once we realized it had been pitched around 2015. We were like, oh my God, why wouldn't you do that? Please do that. And then they came back around and they decided, yes, we will do it. So this is one of those things where, I read comics very on and off sporadically when I have time. I don't keep up on them as much as I should or want to. But this was one where I was like, oh my God, as soon as this comes out, day one, it is mine. And to have like fans like us who are that excited about a book, the fact that even I lost track of it and didn't even finish it until we knew we were going to do a podcast, like that kind of tells you everything, doesn't it?
Yeah, and there was so much buzz when this was coming out because is it
Totally.
say his name again, Joe Quinones?
Yes.
So he was sharing artwork like crazy on Twitter, and it was really
Yeah.
hyping it up. And even really for the first 3 issues, he kept teasing things, and the covers were beautiful. And you're like, oh man, like I'm really, really looking forward to this. And then again, even like you said, some people didn't like it. There was mixed reaction, but there was still buzz, good or bad. And then it just fizzled away really quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And again, I don't think that's about the book itself. I think it's their dopey whatever happened with the delays. But I will say this is one I was very, very excited about. And by the time like that gap started to close and they started releasing the new ones, I think I felt like you did, which is, well, now I might as well just wait until it ends so I can read it all in one fell swoop. That's what I did last night. I was up very late, a little tired today, but it's worth it because I'm committed to the cause of Batman. But now I was able to read it all at once, which was nice. Like it was, I think it was a good way to read it. You said you've read it multiple times now.
Well, I read it sporadically when it first came out, and that was not a good experience. And we can get into that later. But and then when it hit the trade or the hardcover, I've read the hardcover through, and then I read it again in the last couple of days, and it works so much better reading it in like one or two sittings, close
Yes.
together because
Yeah.
it's a more complicated book than I think it maybe needed to be, or was what I was expecting, or it's just my attention span is shot as I get older. But
It might be a little column A, a little column B.
you need to really pay attention though with the first few issues of the payoffs at the end. And I think this book is strong at the end. I think there's a
Mhm.
lot of good stuff towards the end, but if you don't remember issues 1 through 3, you don't care about the ending as much as you probably should.
Oh, absolutely. I completely agree with that actually, because I do think that there are parts in the middle where you are kind of like, huh, like what, where's this going? What is this leading to? And then it does wrap up pretty well in the end, but a lot of that stuff should be fresh in your mind in order for it to truly work. And
Yeah,
so
like if
yeah, I
it's been
do
a
think
year from issue 1 to issue 6, you're not going to remember that stuff, and that's not fair to the writers. I mean, I know they might be the ones that are possibly hurting the release schedule, but it's definitely not fair in any regard to how you're supposed to enjoy this book.
yeah, definitely. So I will agree with you. Like for everybody at home, maybe you did what we did is you read the first couple and then when there was that huge gap you fell off, and that's fair and I don't even blame you for it. But now that all of them are available, I do think that it reads better all together, all in one fell swoop. So let's get into that. We'll start spoiler free just in case. I just want to hear your overall thoughts on this 6 issue series, which I would also say, speaking of like the complexity of the story as well as the pacing of the story, it really helped me to really read it and picture it as a movie, because the pacing feels much more like a movie than it does a normal comic book miniseries.
I completely agree with that, and I don't think that hit me until this most recent time reading it,
Yeah.
because again, reading it issue by issue was terrible. Every time I've read this, I've enjoyed it more because
Hmm.
I think I've picked up on certain things more, I've paid attention to certain things more, and I think that helps a lot. I mean, it always helps to pay attention, but to really
Here,
just
pro tip: pay attention when you're
yeah,
reading or watching
actually
something.
actually pay attention to the words you're reading, guys, when you're reading it, and look at the
All
pictures
right,
because they're
that's
all there for a
good.
reason. But but yeah, it's just to try to treat it like a movie and with the way the pacing is. I think that's a huge advantage if you're looking at it that way, because it does play like that, and you also have to kind of treat it as a movie that I think, and this is hard without spoilers, but and this might be one of my kind of nitpicks, is kind of treat it like a movie that would have been a sequel that was made at the time. But I
Yes. Well,
but I,
because it even
parts of it
feels
doesn't.
like it feels like it is set in 1995,
Yes.
which would have been when this would have been released as a movie.
Yeah. Like, I think there are, dare I say, like, tropes of comic films from 95 that are in this book, but I think they also have a lot of modern ideas in the book. So like that's where I think it kind of it like toes that line of like what would we have done in 95, but also maybe we should do this now, or maybe we should do this now. And I don't even think that, like, it's not a criticism, it's a weird feeling reading the book,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It
but I
does
do
help to
enjoy
it
it.
helps to put it in context of,
Yeah.
imagine it coming out in 1995 and imagine you're watching it as a movie, because that truly is the way it's structured. Sam Hamm is, he is much more of a screenwriter, and I think that he wrote it like it's a screenplay. Um, and how that works for you may differ depending on who's reading it, but I think to me that, even from issue one, because I read issue one the day it came out, that's how I felt of like, oh, this does feel like the first 15 minutes or 20 minutes of a movie.
Yep, it feels like the prologue or the setup of the film, and
Right.
like
For sure.
how this stuff might tie in later, how it might not, is it separate? Yeah, it's and there's even a lot of like fun stuff that you could see being on camera that doesn't necessarily translate to a book as well as you might think, unless you like, again, I hate to say pay attention, but like at first you might be like, what is going on here? And then it does, help when you reread it, because you understand what they're trying to do, and in certain aspects. And that I could probably get into more once we get into spoilers and stuff. But I I really do enjoy the book. Like I said, I enjoyed it more each time I've read it. I think it does help to know where the book is going or where the story is going, to then reread the first few issues and really, you know, pick up on certain things, because I think it is complicated, but it's not overly complicated. But I think it helps to really be able to see a lot of that foreshadowing and that kind of stuff. But it's really hard for me to talk about it without getting into spoilers. Not that there's anything crazy in it, but I will say I did enjoy it. It's not what I expected from this book. I think it goes in a lot of different directions and maybe things that it didn't have to do, but I've learned to appreciate it more on rereads, because I've kind of pushed my expectations out the window and just read it for what it is. And I have a problem with doing that in general with a lot of properties. And in this case, judging it on what it is as opposed to what I expected helped a lot with the rereads.
I'm sure. Yeah. And I think that I even liked it. I mean, again, the first time I think I only read the first three, maybe four issues, and then I read it all last night. And I think even then I feel like it went down smoother
Hmm.
because your expectations are managed and you realize what it is. I mean, I think I'm with you for the most part. I like it. I think it's pretty good. There are things I love in it. There are things I don't love in it. But at the end of the day, it feels very in line with the Burton verse. They made a very concerted effort to tie it in with both Batman and Batman Returns. And that's some of my favorite stuff, is how much
Mhm.
it truly embraces being a sequel to both of those films.
Yeah.
And honestly, even trying to tie those films together so that way they all feel like one cohesive whole, and I really like that. Um, but I do like it. I wish I loved it because I was so excited about it. And so that's, I think, the biggest disappointment is that when it's over, and I'll read it again, and I'm sure to your point, maybe I'll enjoy it even more. Um, I'm mostly just disappointed is that I was so excited for it, and after all is said and done, I'm like, no, it's pretty good. I enjoy it for what it is, and but there's some things that are a little head scratching. There are some things I really like. I mean, I'll say this because it's not a spoiler. It was in the covers. Is like, I actually feel like the writing of Billy D. Williams' Harvey Dent and his transformation into Two Face, I really like that. I think that's a really great aspect of the book to see that progression and how it all ends up. I think that's really strong. But then there's some other choices in there that are a little weird. And I do think that you might have been getting to it earlier, is maybe he bit off a little more that he could chew in this.
Yeah, I think that's a better way to describe it than me calling it complicated, because I
Yeah.
think it's more just there are some ideas that maybe come off a little half baked
Yeah.
because it is only 6 issues. That even on reread, I'm like, I feel like I remember more of this, and that was what bothered me. But there really isn't that much stuff that I was thinking about when I said like, oh, I wish this was done differently or whatever. Like some of it was actually pretty minor, but I remembered it more than I thought I did.
Hmm.
And I will say this too: you read Superman 78, didn't you?
Yes.
I think that might have been a big detriment, and it's unfair to this book completely, but that was like a, an excellent book.
I agree. I
It's
was
not
going to
fair to
say
this
that.
book. It's not
It
fair.
isn't, but the problem is they both came out at the same time. And I feel like Superman 78 nailed it.
Like I feel like that was perfect. Like you could
Oh,
envision
nailed it.
that being Superman 3.
And it should be. And in my mind, it is. Like,
Yes.
yes, I'm with you. It's awesome. I think the art is stronger in Batman 89 than in Superman 78. I think that
Mhm,
was the biggest detriment to Superman 78, is I thought the art was fine, but not excellent.
mhm.
Whereas I think the art in Batman 89 is mostly excellent, but I think the story and the writing in Superman 78 is just spot on. And
But
I
it's
think that they
also
nailed it.
it's so perfect to be Superman 3. It's simple. It's a very simple, straightforward
Yeah. Yeah.
Superman tale in that perfect world. Like it is just very, and it's a simple story. It's not trying to do too much, and I applaud the ambition of this story, but it just kind of it doesn't all work as well as it could have if he maybe did try to just simplify it. And that's a hard thing to criticize because I will always appreciate the ambition even if it doesn't land more than
Yeah.
just but again it's weird because it's such a fun idea to just do a sequel to Batman 89. Like Superman 78, they nailed it because it was just fun. Like it wasn't trying to do
Mhm.
anything crazy.
Well, and I think there are a lot more elements here. And I think that is one of my biggest complaints is I feel like I have such mixed feelings. Is I really loved seeing Catwoman back. I loved picking that up from Returns,
Yep.
but through the book, I felt like he never quite knew what to do with Catwoman.
Hmm. And then
Like, he
the
brought her back
ending,
because he knew he had to and he should,
yeah.
but she just never felt truly integrated into the story to the point where it's like, like that. That's the part where I felt like it's a little half baked, where it's like, you never quite found the right way to use her. And so she's here, and it's good that she is here, but it feels more like an afterthought. And so when she does pop in here and there, you're like, oh yeah, that's right, Catwoman too.
Yeah, and she plays more into it than you'd expect, and then it kind of feels like it comes out of nowhere a little bit. But yeah, that's more for spoilers at the end and that kind of thing. But yeah, I agree with you there because you can't not have Catwoman in this. Like it's so much fun to have her in this, and even introducing Barbara Gordon in this in a very I don't know if unorthodox is the right way, but it feels to me the introduction of Barbara Gordon is where I get into that whole um 90s comic movie trope where it's like, here's Barbara Gordon, wink, wink.
Well, it is interesting that they went with a already adult Barbara Gordon,
Hmm.
because
And
you
I
would
like her as a character in this.
oh yeah, of course, and I actually like her in this book. But yes, it's sort of, as comic fans, you would expect, oh, she'd be a little younger because that would open up the possibility of her becoming Batgirl, and they just jump right over that possibility. They immediately make her an adult and a police officer, and so it's like, nope, we're not doing Batgirl. And I'm like, well, why not? Why can't you do Batgirl? But this was the choice they made. And I don't know if it was because Pat Hingle's commissioner is just an older version of Gordon, so maybe it just made sense to make her grown already. But it was an interesting choice. Something I read that's interesting. So obviously, because this is the Burton verse, you have a Batman that is Michael Keaton, and he is drawn very much like Michael Keaton, and you have Billy D. Williams as Harvey Dent. Robin is essentially Marlon Wayans, who was cast at a certain point and got paid to not make the movie. Catwoman is very much Michelle Pfeiffer. But something I did not pick up on, but I read, is that they modeled Barbara Gordon after Winona Ryder.
Oh, I
which
did not see that.
Like, yeah, because it's like, if you look at it, you go, oh, I guess. Yeah, I guess.
So. Yeah. I'm looking at the cover at number 3 now.
Right.
Like, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, and I didn't even think of that, but I guess it was that whole like, oh, like who would Tim Burton have cast in 1995? Yeah. Probably Winona Ryder. They're friends. They work together on multiple films. So it's not as on the nose as some of the others. But once I heard that, I was like, oh, okay, I guess that makes sense.
Well, it's funny you said about Marlon Wayans. I never pictured Marlon Wayans when reading this book.
Oh, really?
And I know that Marlon Wayans was cast in Returns and never, got paid to not be in it. But it never even occurred to me that because I feel like he's younger in this. But I guess I forget that Marlon Wayans was pretty young in 92. Yep. It didn't even occur to me.
That's why I do love that the character is not Dick Grayson. He is not Jason Todd. He is not Tim Drake. He is Drake Winston, a new Robin that was created specifically for this story. But the way he is drawn, much like Marlon Wayans, but he also has the hair that the Robin action figure had from Kenner, which I thought was great. Still because they sculpted that figure after Marlon Wayans, and then when he didn't end up in the movie, they were like, well, paint him white. Because then now he's the comic book Robin. Now he's not in the movie anymore. But yeah, so, and I thought that was interesting. I'll just say, let's start speaking freely. Get over the spoiler wall, because I don't know what he is even considered spoilers, but we're gonna get over the spoiler wall and speak freely. I think we both, like I said, we like it. We're not over the moon on it. I've seen people who really didn't like it. I'm not that either, because I think there's a lot to like in it. And am I maybe being a little easier on it because I just love the Burtonverse so much? Yeah, probably. That's probably true. But that's okay. I'm so happy to get a continuation that is so respectful of the first two films and is really diligently trying to carry on those stories in an organic way where it feels pretty close to what a Batman 3 could have been under Burton, that I give it a lot of credit for that, even if everything in it didn't work for me. But that's kind of where I stand.
Yeah, I'm pretty much right where you're at. I do really like it. I've liked it more each time I've read it, which is, to me, that's a good sign. And yeah, being in the Burton world again, I think this would have worked really well as like an animated movie. Like you could kind of see that as you are reading it, that it does fit.
I mean, honestly, while I'm reading it, I literally was like, they should just make an animated version of this. They really should. Mm-hmm. Because A, it will give you a chance to maybe massage some of those story points that we didn't think worked as well. And B, something that I do think that, and I don't think this is too spoilery, is, and maybe if I read it again, it'll be better, but I feel like it's kind of lacking in action.
Yeah, it honestly feels like a 90s action. Like there's not a lot of fighting, but like going into the burning building is like a 90s action thing, like they had like action set pieces but not Batman action set pieces.
Yeah, so I mean there's
I didn't really think about it until you just said it.
Yeah, there's enough in it, but I feel like in comic medium you're not just going to do pages and pages of action, because that's just, you've got dialogue and story to tell. Whereas in a film or an animation, you can lean more into the action, and then it becomes, so I do feel like being able to realize these action beats from the book in a more fully realized way in animation, I think would also make the story feel a little fuller in that respect. But anyway, my point is you mentioned an animated version, and I'm like, hell yeah. And if they could get whoever's still around to voice the right characters, I think that would be amazing too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would buy that in a second because I liked it enough that I would certainly buy this immediately.
Yeah, because like the action pieces are there, they're just not focused on in the book.
Well, and that's just it. Is like the moments are there, but they're usually 2 or 3 panels, and then you move on.
Yeah, like it's almost
So
like they skip over it.
yes, they feel abbreviated, and I
Yeah.
think that's my point. Is like yes, the moments are there, but because it's a comic, you get through them quick. Whereas
Yeah.
again, in animation, you could actually choreograph an actual fight or have a much bigger, more suspenseful action sequence.
Yeah, like just something as simple as like the bike. Like you see the bike for like a few panels, but like you don't get to see anything that the bike does because it's I guess hard to do that in a comic medium.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm sorry. Did you have other thoughts before we start speaking more freely?
No, I'm probably just gonna keep repeating myself if we don't go over the spoiler wall. So yeah, I definitely recommend checking it out just to see what could have been a possible Batman 3. That's really the draw to this, and I think they accomplished that.
Yeah, I agree with you. So anyway, now we are going to speak freely. Spoilers. If you're worried about spoilers, this is your warning. But spoilers are fair game in 3, 2, 1. Um, anyway, so this is what I was going to say is because we were talking about Drake Winston, the new Robin, and I'll tell you, way back in the day, I I think I've said this before, is the very first internet fight I ever got into. The very first one was when someone insulted Tim Burton and said, I mean, this was the guy who was going to give us a Black Robin. And I was like, oh, hell no. There is no reason Robin can't be black. Like, it's like, we got into a fight about it. Anyway, here's my point. I've never had an issue I mean, race swapping almost any character, really. And so, like, when they cast Marlon Wayans as Robin, I was like, okay, great. So Robin's black. Cool. But in the original Sam Hamm Batman 2 script, he was Dick Grayson. And he just was going to be black. And that was what I was expecting here. And so I wasn't expecting it to be a new character. So I don't know how I feel about it. I like
this is kind of where I'm at with this.
Yeah.
I feel like and Sam Hamm's allowed to do whatever he wants. But I feel like this isn't what Sam Hamm would have done in 94
right.
or
Yeah.
5. This is what Sam Hamm would have done in 94 to an extent. And then he's like, but, and again, I can't criticize him for making it relevant to today's world. I just can't see him writing this story back in 94 with all the, with the Tim Drake character, with the Drake Winston character and the backstory of him and incorporating Harvey Dent into that Burnside. I mean, obviously Burnside wasn't even created back then, so that's irrelevant. Because Burnside's relatively new in the comics, as far as I know.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I appreciate what he was trying to do. I just don't think he would have done that back then.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, and I do wonder if it's,
and if it's because, then I'm sorry. Good on him if he was willing to be so far ahead of his time to do something like that back then. And again, I'm not faulting him for doing it now. He's allowed to. He's writing the book now. Why wouldn't you do something that you have passion for?
Well, and I do wonder, and this is kind of what I've told myself, because again, I was like, I've read his Batman 2 script. We've reviewed it on the show. At that time, he wrote Robin to be Dick Grayson. Mm-hmm. But I do wonder if because they didn't use that Batman 2 script, he kind of was like, well, now Batman Returns is what it is. It's not what I envisioned. So what would I do as a Batman 3 then to kind of unite the two? And at that point, maybe Dick Grayson makes less sense. Mm-hmm. And I do totally understand like the whole angle with the Burnside neighborhood and, the black community in Gotham being disenfranchised. And I think that's a very interesting angle for this story, especially leaning into the fact that Harvey Dent was played by Billy D. Williams. Yeah. And I'm like, that's actually kind of a smart spin, right? Of going, absolutely. Like Harvey Dent was race swapped in 1989. I don't remember anyone bitching about it back then, but he was race swapped and they didn't make any big deal of it. It was just because it was Billy D. Williams. But I like the idea of going, well, we did do that. So how do we make that part of the story for this? And I actually think that's really creative of being like, well, then let's talk about race relations in Gotham and how that affects Batman and how maybe there are neighborhoods that Batman has been neglecting and now he has guilt for that. And I think that's actually fertile storytelling ground and I like that. So I appreciate how Drake Winston factors into that and that now this Robin comes from that world. So I don't know, I'm kind of talking myself into liking that they just invented a new Robin, but at the same time I was like, if this was truly the Burton movies, the first Robin you introduce is a made up one. I'm like, is that really necessary? So that's kind of where I'm at war with myself.
Yeah, and I guess it also kind of plays into, could you have just named him Dick Grayson and done the exact same backstory, or did you not want to do that because that's not Dick Grayson in the comics?
Right.
Would that have pissed more people off? It's
I
it's
think
tough.
that's it. Is yeah, like if you essentially just did the same exact thing and his name just happened to be Dick Grayson,
But then,
then people will just go, well, that's not Dick Grayson. Dick
or
Grayson doesn't do that. Yeah.
if you make him, you know, a black character, but then make him in the circus and then make it with, the same backstory as Batman Forever, are you bringing enough new to the table? So I get he wanted to do something different, and I appreciate that he did want to do something different because I think it might have been weird if you just introduced the circus into this story. I don't know. Again, I'm like kind of fighting with myself here because I don't have an answer, and I don't mind what he did,
Yeah.
especially since
Yeah.
it isn't 1995 and it's not the first live action Dick Grayson we got. So,
Right.
or Robin. So, and it's weird because like the race swapping thing for Two Face, I do wonder if it's because there was never a white actor to play Two Face prior, so most of the general audience doesn't even think about it.
Yeah, you're right. In 1989, only comic nerds knew who Harvey Dent
Exactly.
was. The general audience didn't even know he was going to turn into a villain.
But yeah, casting a black man to be the district attorney in Gotham, I think it's smart on Sam Hamm to make that relevant. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
what would that do for someone in his position to better the community? And I think it's
Hmm.
a smart way to tie in the fact that you now have a Black Robin. It makes sense.
Yeah. No, I agree. And like I said, I liked that angle of the story and I think that it's actually interesting. So I was just a little I love how he uses Harvey Dent as the in for that.
Hmm.
I just didn't know if we needed to create a whole new Robin. That's kind of where
Yeah.
I'm at. Is and again talking through it, I feel like I understand why it was probably the cleanest decision
Hmm.
instead of trying to take a pre-existing Robin and then fit it into this particular scenario. Um
He's also not Robin. He's the Avenging Eagle.
right. What did you think of the costume?
I actually like the costume. The mask is a little weird because it's like a ninja mask basically.
Yeah, it
Or
was like
he's just got,
Sub-Zero.
yeah. But I like the hood. I like the cape, the colors. It looks like again, it's not the traditional Robin costume. But if you saw a picture of that, you'd say, "Oh, that's Robin." It just looks a little different, but it is Robin. Like you could tell it's Robin from looking at it. Um, but could he have just done a regular mask to make it look more like the traditional Robin? Yeah, sure. But again, I think it does help that it's not 1995. It's not the first Robin we've gotten. I was more willing to just treat this as a fun Elseworlds thing because it's not something we ever got. So
Mhm.
I I was more willing to go with whatever different things they did. Like your love of Robin is going to make you prioritize you wanted Dick Grayson as Robin. Where I did, it never even occurred to me that like we weren't getting Dick Grayson. To me, it was just okay. This is their Robin for this story, and
Mhm.
it is what it is. Um, but I mean, listen, they could have very easily because this reminded me of, is it Darren Aronofsky's Year One script with the whole
Yeah.
garage and all that stuff? Like it could have been that, and it wasn't. He still has a costume. It's not like he's just running around with a hooded sweatshirt and doing his thing. Like they gave him a cool costume, so I was okay with it.
I will say this. So, like from the neck down, I love the costume. I do think it's like the ninja mask that
Hmm.
I mean, functionally, it's much better at hiding your identity than a
Yeah,
domino mask. So I get that, but domino mask just looks so cool. So
yeah,
I just wish he had the domino mask because I just think it's such a great look. The hood I could take or leave, but if they had switched the face mask for the domino mask, I'd have no complaint. I just feel like it's a little too ninja. Um, but it's fine. But I do agree with you. One thing that I really like about it is that he does have a costume and he gets it relatively early, and he and Batman are partners for far more of the story than I would have expected. Like
Mm-hmm.
far more than they are in Batman Forever.
Yeah.
You know, in Batman Forever, they really only become Batman and Robin for that final, for that final set piece at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And here they team up much earlier. And so you get a little bit of more of them working together as partners, which I appreciated, because if you're going to have Robin introduced, that was always one of my issues with Forever is I was like, man, like I've waited 3 movies now to get Robin. And now when I finally do, he's only Robin for, whatever, a few minutes at the end.
Yeah.
So I like that Sam Hamm found a way to write him in earlier and to team them up earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned the Bat Bike. I really like that. I think that feels like it feels at home with the Burton Batmobile and the Burton Batwing and everything. It feels like that same family, and I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like the costume. Like you were talking about the hood. I like that they, he has the bow staff. He has and the hood reminds me of a Damian Wayne. So like
Yeah.
it is a hybrid of a lot of different Robins, which again they're not using a particular name. So, and I appreciate the fact that he gave him the colors. He could have very easily toned this down and went different, but I mean he's even still got the R. What
Yeah.
is the
Yeah.
R? What does the R represent in the book?
I don't think they ever really. I mean, it came from the garage he worked at, which was
Okay, what was the
Royal
name
or
of the
something.
garage? It was an R?
But yeah, but like
Okay.
why he would put it on his costume, I don't know. Especially if
And
he
yeah,
didn't decide his name was Robin yet. I don't know.
but I don't care.
Yes, it was
He's got an R.
Royal Auto Body was where the R came from.
So then he must have, because I'm looking at the costume now. Maybe it was like a hooded sweatshirt that was like
From
an
work?
outfit from work, and he cut it up, and that's what makes it look like a cape.
Yeah,
Because
it could be.
it's short. The cape is not long. So that's probably what it is, which is a
Yeah.
cool idea, just to get him with the R. It's again that '90s kind of way of doing things.
Yeah. I also say this is a nitpick, I know, and it's a nerdy nitpick, is like, but there's like no explanation for why he's such a good fighter. He just is.
Yeah, that was always
Like,
kind of a thing.
like
Yeah,
nothing, at least that was always the nice thing about Dick Grayson, of like, oh, well, if he's been a master acrobat since he could walk, it's a much easier buy to go, oh, he already brings all these skills to the table. Whereas this guy, he's like, oh, he's a mechanic, but I guess he can fight.
Well, what's your
But
headcanon for
I know
Catwoman?
it's nerdy, but
What's your headcanon for Catwoman then in Batman Returns? The powers from the cats?
well, she's reborn. Like, and it's funny because I have heard people complain about like, what, now she can do flips, and it's like,
Yeah.
I always just took it as, I mean, it was part of that rebirth.
It's
and
like a magic thing type of whatever.
yeah. I mean, she's sort of like, like has the spirit of the cat, but
Yeah.
it's a much more nebulous thing than it is like a concrete thing. And I know that some people have an issue with that. I don't.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with it. It was more just my curiosity of if that was something that you kind of
like. I didn't need a. Yeah, it's like I didn't need a montage where she learned how to do backflips because
yeah, a training montage. I'll be honest, I would have taken a training montage with Michelle Pfeiffer.
Oh, for sure. And here's the thing is, I don't need a training montage for this either. I just would have liked some mention of like, like of Otis was like the mentor figure for both Harvey Dent and for Drake. Like, even if he had said, Drake, like, I wish you'd get a life. If you're not working in the garage, you're at kickboxing, or just something, to go, oh, he has some skills, but instead it just is. That's all I would have needed, and going, oh, okay, that's fine. I got it. What's funny is, I'm sorry, this is neither here nor there, but like, I am a staunch defender of the Daredevil movie. Sorry, I love it. Fight me. But when it came out, and I was like, oh, I love it, and people did not love it, and people were like, yeah, what the hell? Like, Jennifer Garner like can just do ninja, and I'm like, well, yeah, she's Elektra, and they're like, but what? How can she do this? And I was like, because she's Elektra, and like, I was like, oh, I'm bringing my comic book knowledge to the movie, because there's nothing in the movie that like explains that she was an assassin. And I was like, oh, I guess that's true. I guess they never mentioned it in the movie, but I know she's an assassin because I'm a nerd. So when she starts doing kung fu, I'm like, of course, obviously she's Elektra. She knows how to do that.
Yeah,
So
that stuff never bothers me because I'm just kind of like, well, it must have happened off screen somewhere. Whatever.
yeah. Anyway, sorry. That's just what made me think of, because I just remember having that debate and people were like, "Well, but why can she do karate and do flips?" I'm like, "Cuz she's Elektra." Duh. Anyway, so I will go back to Harvey Dent just cuz I do think that Harvey Dent is very well used in this, especially after sitting out Batman Returns. I like that they bring him right back. I like that he's really the crux of this, and I don't know, like I like his descent into madness, and I really appreciated. I thought it was really creative the way, and they don't call him Big Bad Harv in this, but his alter ego kind of explains that every time you flip a coin, you create two possibilities, you create two
Yes.
worlds, and that becomes this theme of like this power, right? That coin creates power, and I just thought that was really creative. And then the way they really bring it home at the end, and if I feel like both of the Burton films, but especially Returns, the endings are kind of bittersweet. They have a little
Mhm.
bit of a melancholy feel because Tim Burton. And I feel the same way about the end of this, which I thought was very fitting. And sorry to jump to the end, just call me Jamie Drewley, but where they lose Harvey. And so Bruce is there alone, and he imagines like this other world that he could have had with Selena and with kids and, and his parents. And it comes back to that flipping of the coin. And so the last thing that you see is him flip the coin. And I was like, that's actually I think that's a really nice way to weave in Harvey's psychosis with what's going on with Bruce.
Well, here's the weird thing for me is I at first when I read it, I'm like, that's kind of a weird ending. But then once I pictured it as the ending of a movie from Tim Burton, it made a lot more sense to me. Like it fit the world perfectly
Exactly. Yep.
because they do a lot with the dreams in this. And I love too that the baby is um the daughter of the one that was killed in Batman's first mission in this. It was Naisha. That's the one that I want to say, did the mother die? Or whoever it was that Drake was protecting.
Yes, it was a father.
It was the father. Okay,
Well,
so
what's funny is I read it to be her father. Is that he's a single father and he's stealing food and formula for her, which we talked about this. Like hits home right now, having a
oh
baby
yeah,
girl. Like I can't handle stuff with babies right now because like I get really
yep,
emotional because
yep.
because immediately I'm like, oh my god, what if I couldn't feed my daughter? Like,
Yes, you put
oh
yourself in that situation
yeah, and
immediately
like
now.
and it
Yes,
like and like yeah, my whole chest tightens. It's like, so like I really felt that scene.
yeah.
But like that's how I took it, as it was her father. But like I read the synopsis on Wikipedia just to remind myself before we got on, and it said it was her older brother. But I'm like, I don't think that was true. But
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't get that either.
I didn't either. But regardless, it's a very heartbreaking scene, and I like that scene of like it was a failure on Batman's part, and
Oh yeah,
now
they start that way with a big
yeah,
failure.
and he doesn't know how to deal with that, and he's racked with guilt. And I mean, we love Batman and he's our hero and he does a lot of good, but he's not perfect. And so I like the idea of this is a story where he is wrestling with a failure.
Hmm.
And so yeah, I thought that was really effective.
And I love the so he does it a couple times. He does the dream. One of the standout moments is the dream in the beginning of issue. I want to say it's issue 4, right after the transformation, where you're seeing Harvey. If he didn't get scarred and he came out, and you don't know what's
Yeah.
going
Yeah.
on, and I'll be honest, the first time I read that, I had no idea what was happening. Like I was so
Oh yeah.
confused.
I mean, it was a little bit of Romeo and Michelle. Did you ever see Romeo and Michelle?
No, no, I haven't.
Oh, well, spoilers. In the middle, there's like this extended dream sequence where it's the same thing where you're like, wait, is this really happening? What the hell's going on? And that's how I had here. I was like, wait, what? And then you find out that no, that was the other path, that
Well,
had he gotten out, how things could have gone. So,
yeah, I
but
think
you're
the
right. It goes
problem.
on just long enough that you start doubting your own sanity, and you're like, wait, what did I miss? I missed something. Did I space out? Did I have a seizure? What's going on?
Well, because it does a 1 year later, and I'm like, well, a dream sequence doesn't usually do a 1 year later.
Yeah, this one did.
and and then at the end, I will say that confused me too. At the end with the coin flip, and he's seeing both decisions that Harvey's making. Did you catch that? Because I did not catch it the first time I read the book.
Okay, hold on. I'm going back.
When Carvey's hanging off the ledge, you're
Oh,
seeing
that.
one side of the page because when you first read it, you're like, "What is happening? This doesn't line up."
Yeah.
So what's happening, I think, is that the left side of the page is one decision Harvey's making where he kills Bruce, and does he kill Bruce or Selena?
Oh, you're right.
So it
Okay,
took me a while to get
I
this.
was so confused by these
And
pages.
do not read that digitally. If you read that panel to panel, it makes even less sense.
Okay, yes, I am so glad you explained that because I don't get it. But you're right. So he's
I thought
flipping
it
the
was like a
coin.
continuity thing.
Me too. Because you're right. On one half, he flips the coin on one half.
I don't even
Yes,
think does he flip the coin, or he's literally just deciding.
he's hanging and the
Yes,
coin is flipping in the center.
yeah, so he's flipping the coin, and you're seeing two decisions made by each coin flip, and in one of them he shoots.
He shoots Bruce in the head, and that's why Bruce is like slumped
Yes.
over.
Yep. And then on the other side, you see, and yeah, this makes no sense digitally. I didn't realize this was a splash page. So it's very confusing.
Yes, yes. I was very confused by this, and I really wish it was clear. Because even now, with that explanation, and I'm looking at it, it makes more sense, but it's still a little fuzzy.
So when you read it digitally, there's a line down the middle of this page.
Yes.
And that makes a big difference. Because if there's no line, it looks like you're reading across and it makes no sense.
Yeah, got it.
So, but I like it once I figured out what was going on. I think it's a really cool story idea. It probably would actually make more sense in a visual, like an animated movie or an actual film, where a good director like Tim Burton would be able to,
exactly
convey that
make
message
it very clear.
Yeah.
Right.
where like I said, I read it twice. I probably didn't know what the heck was going on the first two times, but I really enjoyed that the third time. And that is one of the big complaints I have, is the whole message of Selena at the end kind of does feel out of nowhere, right?
Where she kind of lashes out at him.
Yeah, for like not killing him because she was okay killing him. I felt like that kind of came out of nowhere.
Well, especially because like it's not really a conflict through the rest of the story. Exactly. So yeah, you're right. Like it wasn't really set up, and that goes back to,
it felt like it went to Batman Hush, like the animated film. Like,
yeah. Like and I think again that kind of goes back to, I think the biggest issue with the film or the book is that I love seeing Selena. I love that it's this version. I like her update to her look of sort of combining the Returns look with kind of the animated series look and a little bit of the comic book. I like that, but she just feels a little clumsily inserted into the story.
Yeah.
And I think there was probably a better way to do that.
Yeah. The emotional side of Bruce, having dreams about her and all that kind of stuff works because you want that, and the continuity with Alfred and like the cat. The cat was a cool idea. The whole cat thing with the microphone on the cat.
Well, and that's just it. And again, to go back to things I love is like how many little pieces of connective tissue there is to both films. Like the cat that he picks up at the end of Returns is right there living with him in the Batcave at the beginning of the story. Like that's great. There's the mention of when Alfred lets her into the Batcave and Batman says something about like this is a pattern with you, something like that. like that's awesome. I love that. The Joker is gone. The Joker died at the beginning of the first Batman. But I like that there's still these Joker gangs out there that are still obsessing over him and idolizing him. So it's nice to get just a little bit of a flavor of that, of Joker still existing in Gotham.
Even though that ends up becoming a front. They're not really into the Joker. It was
some are, but some aren't, right? Like
okay.
One group uses
the ones for that particular heist were not.
Exactly. They were posing as, because everybody knows about the Joker gang, so the other group posed as the Joker gang, knowing they would be blamed.
Okay.
But like, I think that was really interesting. I will say, when the whole thing starts on Halloween night, I love that. Mm-hmm. Did you notice that every extra dressed up for Halloween though is dressed up like a Tim Burton character?
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Oh yeah, totally. Like a little girl's dressed up like Sally from The Nightmare Before Christmas. A girl's dressed up like Winona Ryder from
Oh yeah,
Beetlejuice.
clear as day.
There's the Mars Attacks lady. There's the Prince Joker. Trying to
The Prince Joker, I obviously saw.
Well, yeah, that one. I mean, yeah, that one's right out front. It looks like there's a little kid dressed like the Penguin. So yeah, just like really fun. I mean, there's the Jack-o'-lantern from Sleepy Hollow. They even used the Nightmare Before Christmas font and the Happy Halloween banner.
Yeah.
So like again, like really
They had
just
fun with it.
leaning into Tim Burton. Oh yeah, there's another moment where there's the it's the dead girl from Beetlejuice who's the receptionist. She's in there. So yeah. And like, but like even the first time you see Batman, he jumps off and he's got those mechanical glider wings from Returns.
Yep.
So again, like they found as many ways to just make this feel like a natural progression, which I really loved about it. I thought that was actually really well done.
A main story point was the remote Batarang.
Yeah, exactly. And they incorporated Bullock. So they brought him in finally.
And it's the most Gordon's had to do in any of the Batman films up to that point.
I mean, yeah, it is the most Gordon that it's the most accurate Gordon that we've gotten in any of the quote unquote Burton films, even though this wasn't done by Burton. But it at least takes the Gordon from Batman and Batman Returns and nudges him more into the Gordon that we expect to see. And I like that. This is the big spoiler, but I was shocked they killed him.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, so I mean, there are stakes. I'll give them credit for that. And although part of me is like, you can't kill Gordon, I'm like, well, like it's the third movie.
In these films, you can.
Yeah, you can, but I do wish that his death would have had a bigger impact on Batman. I feel like we don't really see that impact.
No, we don't. We see him,
and I think that's a missing beat.
We give like I don't want to say half-assed. I think it's to come off half-assed. He means more with it, but he calls Barbara and says he was good to me at one point as Bruce Wayne. But yeah, they found ways to give you little nudges to maybe there is more of a backstory with Gordon and Bruce. But yeah, you're right. They didn't let it have its moment. Again, that's kind of where sometimes these, the 6 issues might have hurt it, because even something like, yeah, that didn't have enough time to breathe. How about the fact that he tells Alfred, like, Two-Face is coming here, and then boom, next panel, he's in the Batcave.
Yeah.
Like, that felt like a 66 transition where you literally see the Bat logo and bloop, and then they're like in the Batcave. I don't know how he got there. Like, how did Harvey get to the Batcave?
I will say, here's my biggest complaint about the whole thing, is I feel like the ending is so anticlimactic.
Well,
I feel like the climax happens at the end of issue 5.
Yes, absolutely, with all everything coming to light with the corruption and him. That's another complaint. Falcone just comes out of nowhere. Like, we know who he is because of the comics, but is that the first mention of Falcone?
Yeah, but I kind of appreciate that as like an Easter egg. Like, that doesn't bug me, because it's like, oh, it's like, yeah, he's gonna show who he is by offing one of the high-ranking gangsters. Might as well make it Falcone. Like, that doesn't bother me. Okay. But like, for me, especially, again, imagining this as a movie, imagining this as a big summer movie, the way the first 2 Batman films were, you need a big, satisfying finale. And to me, the finale is like Harvey shows up in the Batcave.
It feels like a COVID reshoot where, like,
yeah,
they only had enough money for your green screen in the Batcave on set with like 4 people.
Right. And Bruce is just like, hey man, no, like, let's flip a coin and you can, we can do this thing together.
That's a good point. I didn't really think about it, because
then Catwoman pushes him off the ledge and he hangs there and he falls off. And I'm like, number one, the Joker fell to his death. We don't need to see Two-Face fall to his death too.
And he fell to his death in Batman Forever.
And even Penguin kind of fell to his death too, like in Batman Returns. Like, we don't need them all to fall to their death. And also it just was so small and just kind of like, it kind of went out with a whimper, as opposed to like something a little more satisfying. There was not a big epic confrontation. It was just, he pops up in the Batcave.
So what's your take on the whole, he gave him the wrong coin thing? Do you remember that from the ending?
Yeah, it was kind of weird where he was like,
there's no payoff to that, right?
It was weird because that's what he said, but then Catwoman was like, no, you didn't. It was his real coin.
Yeah, so like that was my so Bruce gave him the wrong coin accidentally. Did he, or did like Catwoman switch it on him? Is that what they were trying? Like, I don't know what the point was of them saying Bruce screwed up and gave him his own coin back.
Yeah.
I don't know what the point of that is.
Yeah, it was a really weird. I'm with you. It's a really weird moment, and I don't
Like,
really
if
know what the point was.
I feel like it's their way of justifying what Catwoman did was right, which I don't think that's supposed to be the message.
Yeah, yeah, it was a super odd moment.
Yeah, but again, like there are a couple nitpicks here and there on stuff like that, but I still enjoy the book, and I think sometimes those questions make you remember the book, even if it doesn't make sense or it's not something you like. I'll give it to them that they're making it memorable by making these decisions.
Well, and honestly, I mean, like, I feel like stuff like that exists in every book, like
Oh
where
yeah,
you're like, what the hell is this? I mean,
it exists in every movie. Like if that was a
yeah,
movie, I'd still be like, huh, I wonder what they're trying to say with
that was
that.
weird. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a weird moment because you're right. Like there are things like that where I don't think it all fully works, but there's so much that I think does. You know,
Mhm.
again, I appreciate the story it's telling. I appreciate this extension for what Batman is now up against. Um, you know, kind of the change in the status quo of Gotham and repercussions from both of the first movies. I think that's nice to see those things continue on too. Um, I think the interactions between Bruce and Alfred are spot on. Like I
Mhm.
can hear Keaton and Goff doing
Yeah.
that, going back and forth. I really love that. Um, there's the moment where I think it's when the building's on fire and Bruce runs in to help, and he puts on a ski mask. Have you ever read the original script to Batman? The original Sam Hamm script,
The first film or the second film?
the first film.
No, I don't think so.
So there is a sequence that I don't believe it was ever filmed. But there was a sequence after, you know, when Joker shoots Bruce in Vicky's apartment and then he leaves
Yes.
and then Bruce disappears. As it was originally written, Joker takes Vicky.
Yeah, okay.
And then Bruce
Is
puts
that
on
the
a
whole
ski mask and
horse thing?
chases him down on a horse.
Yes. Okay, I know of that.
And that obviously didn't end up in the film. It's in the novelization, it's in the script. But the fact that in this, because there's a burning building, Bruce throws on a ski mask and goes in to help, I was like, Sam Hamm really wants Bruce to save someone in a ski mask. I just wonder if it was like, well, I'm doing it again because it didn't
Yeah,
make it in the first time.
like John Peters and the Spider.
Exactly, like the giant spider.
But yeah,
So
no, I didn't think of that. There's just some really like when you think about it, like I honestly wasn't expecting to get this much conversation out of it. I'll be honest with you. When you really think about it, though, it is a packed story for 6 issues. There's a lot going on in these 6 issues, and we
oh,
didn't even
absolutely.
Barbara
Yeah.
Gordon. And I think what's crazy with the Barbara Gordon character in this is that like they kept teasing her with with the bat logo in every cover that she was on, but there was never really any teases of her being Batgirl in the
No.
at all. The whole Oracle thing with Catwoman at the end was weird. Like I didn't know where they were going with that. Like, did they just want to throw out the word Oracle for Catwoman? And I don't know.
Yeah, where Catwoman like offered to help her, which I think that's cool, but you're right, like throwing out the word Oracle was interesting.
Yeah.
Well, hold on.
Again,
Now I
they
want
just kept doing like winks and nods, but I was kind of like, but I don't get that wink and nod. I don't think it means what you think it means.
Well, exactly. Yeah, that should be in reverse. Like,
Yeah.
like shouldn't Catwoman say you can be my oracle? Then it would make more
Yeah.
sense.
But again, they threw the word Oracle in there. It got my attention. Maybe mission accomplished. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, I like that they did a return to the moment. It's one of my biggest pet peeves about Batman, the movie, and it's not a pet peeve about the movie. It's a pet peeve about people who don't pay attention during the movie. Is the part when he's hanging upside down, and
Oh
people
yeah, you
and
mean Batman
people
'89, where they think he's sleeping upside down instead of
yes,
actually exercising?
but
Yeah,
he's exercising. And so
yeah.
I love that in this, he is literally
He's
doing the
literally
same thing,
doing
but it is
scrub.
obvious he's doing crunches. He's exercising. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, good. Thank you. Thank you. This is my point. Thank you. Um, so I thought that was a nice nod as well. I like that there's even nods to Shrek's department store
Mhm.
sprinkled in. So like all that stuff makes me
Why do I want
happy.
to say
What
the
can I
note
say?
she
It's
leaves is
great.
a Shrek notepad or something? Does she leave
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then I think when she shows up as Selena Kyle, I think Barbara's looking at her resume and says, "Oh, and you worked at Shrek's."
Yes, there's a couple mentions of Shrek. Um, the other thing I couldn't figure out was where was Selena transferring that money to at the end?
Oh, I didn't. I don't even remember her transferring money.
That's what Barbara's looking at on the computer, or no?
Oh,
So
it's so small. The print is so small that I didn't. I couldn't even. That's the one I need to read digitally because on the
oh,
printed
okay.
version, it's so tiny.
Because it says from Bruce Wayne, and then it's some random account. So like I assumed it was going to that girl, but I don't know because it's a
Hmm,
random name. I didn't
I
look at
don't
it in
know.
the book, but yeah, and that's me just probably looking for things just to try to make sense of it. But
Oh, I will also say I thought this was kind of brilliant. Is Two Face's lair in the subway
mhm.
and how it was essentially the subway extension that was supposed to connect to Burnside, and so half of it
Yes,
is all clean and beautiful, and the other half is all broken down and incomplete. And I thought that was actually a really nice way of having a Two Face layer, but still without it being too cheesy.
yeah,
I thought that was really cool.
yeah, very subtle to the point where I didn't even catch that. Like I caught that. That's I now that you say that, it's obvious that that's what they were trying to do, but it didn't even occur to me.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that's cool. Like instead of it being a big, huge room that he
Yeah,
decorated to be half one way and half the other way.
which is still a lot of fun.
Yeah, which is fun, but that's very Batman 66. I like the idea of, oh no, here's a subway and there's the Burnside side and then there's the
Yeah.
the well-to-do side and here he is right in the middle. I thought that was really good.
They also have a fun moment where someone says like, "Who's your tailor?" Like, because he's already got the double sided suit on.
Yes, yes. I will say I like I said, I really like Two-Face in this and I really love how he looks. I love his design. I like the blue face. I like the white hair. I think if Burton were to turn Billy D into Two Face, this it's hard to imagine it any other way. This feels like the right look for him.
And I love that the first time we see him, it's purple, or it's like reddish, like it's the
Yeah,
burn, and then
the
the
totally
blue is
burnt
like
one.
the
Yeah,
after the fact. Yeah,
yeah. Well, all right. I'm just flipping to see if there's anything else I forgot to mention. But
the
I
penny
mean,
was a
overall,
cool touch.
I mentioned it briefly at the beginning. I do think the art is really exceptional. 99% of the time, there's a handful of panels where they're just a little wonky, but for the most part, I think the art's beautiful, and I really like the way Quinones draws Batman. I like this version of Batman that makes
Mhm.
him, looks like the evolution that would come after Returns. Again, I like the design of Catwoman and Two Face and the Bat Cycle. I think overall, he did a great job, and he said this was his dream project. And I
Yeah,
think you can really tell, like you can see the passion in the artwork throughout.
definitely. And he had so much fun, like I said, teasing stuff on Twitter all the time with the images as the issues were coming out. And oh, the we forgot to mention the nod to the action figure that he had on in
Oh
the suit
yes,
from the Batman Returns. It
I
was from.
love it.
Did
I
it come
love
with
it.
the? I always envision it with the car, but I don't think it came with the car. That was just what we used with the car. Or did it come with the car?
I think there was one that came with the car, and there was one that
Had like a
came on
vest
his own,
plate
and he
or
had the
something.
cowl you could snap on.
Yes. Okay. But yeah, I mean that's a pretty iconic thing to do, and he just removed the bat logo because that wouldn't have made too much sense. But
Right.
I love stuff like that, and just the stupid nod to the penny, like just a quick little nod to that. That was fun, where Alfred like kind of
Oh
made jokes with
yeah.
him about the penny, and
I thought the penny was brilliant because I loved again the idea of updating the Batcave, and I like
mhm,
that they drew the Batcave so that it was kind of from '89, but kind of from Returns to
yeah,
to essentially make it one Batcave, which I think was it's tricky, but they did it,
yeah,
and I love that. But yeah, like the idea of the penny, introducing it early on, and then having it installed in the Batcave, and then having it play a part in the finale with Two Face, I thought was awesome.
hmm yeah. And talking about the Batcave, it's just another point of showing how much fun Quinones was having.
Oh,
Like
absolutely.
that shows you that he really cared to even put any thought into that whatsoever instead of just drawing a random Batcave or just drawing 89 or just Returns. He
Yeah,
had fun trying to come up with some hybrid to justify this being the same Batcave as both movies.
right.
Yeah.
Now, I have not heard anything about them doing another one. Have you?
No, I haven't. I haven't really looked, but I do follow Quinones still on Twitter, and he hasn't said anything. But I would hope that it's just because it's. I mean, this just wrapped up, so I don't know.
Well,
Have you
not
heard anything about
just.
Superman?
It wrapped up in July. It's December, my
Yeah.
friend.
Have you heard about anything with Superman 78?
No, no. But I mean, all that is to say, I will absolutely buy another one if they do a sequel. Same thing with
Hmm.
Superman 78. I will
Yeah.
absolutely do a sequel to that too. I think, I liked them both. It's shocking to me that I think Superman 78 was better, but I do. But even so, I enjoyed this well enough that I would happily go in and buy another one if they do continue it. So, and I know that at least the first issue sold like hotcakes, and then they screwed themselves by waiting 6 months before releasing another one.
Yeah.
Um,
And that
but
could be why
like,
they're
I
not
hope the
announcing it.
sales, justify to do more.
I mean, Batman books in general sell more than any other book for the most part in DC. I would I would assume this one was probably one of their top books. Whether it's good or bad, people buy these type of books, especially the miniseries, because I feel like the miniseries ones are so easy to collect. Like even if you don't collect,
Yes,
even if you don't
yes.
buy monthlies, it's easy to go and pick up 6 issues. So
Oh,
I
absolutely, yeah. And it's nice because there's going to be a beginning and an end. Like,
yeah,
so it's yeah, there's something to be said for that.
so I would hope. I'm hoping that maybe they learned from the poor release schedule that maybe they're getting the story together and starting it, so they'll announce it when they can release it monthly. Like
Yeah,
because
exactly. Like, take the
Three
time
Jokers did that, where they
take the
didn't
time at the
release.
beginning. Yeah,
Yeah,
like,
like
and
Three
then
Jokers literally waited until all 3 issues were done so they could release it and in one shot, month to month,
right.
and that was huge. Like because you don't want to lose that steam of you know again, there was so much buzz around this book when it was announced, and then just up to the first release, and then boom, it just died.
Yeah. No, it's true. I mean, and we are not starving for content, and so if you lose that momentum, like, it's hard to get people back.
Hmm.
So, well, all right. Why don't we give some closing thoughts? And why the hell not? Let's do a letter grade for Batman 89. Go ahead, Joe.
Closing thoughts. I definitely encourage people to at least read it. It is on DC Universe. If you wait, 3 weeks, it'll be on there for the regular subscription. I'm sure it's on Hoopla. If anyone subscribes to that, which is a great app, there are plenty of ways to get this. I think the hardcover is beautiful. It's worth it just for that under
Yeah.
under the dust
Yeah.
jacket. It's just such a cool piece.
Well, and I think I told you I have them all digitally, but last night when I read this, I'm like, I bought their hardcover. I'm reading the hardcover, damn it, just out of principle.
Yep. I'd like to flip back and forth sometimes because it's easier for me to read digitally with when the kids, because I don't want my kids to be touching my good stuff. Or if I'm reading it, I like to read it while I'm at work sometimes. But I have the hardcover in front of me right now. I love just taking these off the shelf and looking at them and flipping through them. But it's listen, if you love Batman 89 and you love Batman Returns, it's worth just checking out just to see a what if, like what could have been. And the fact that Sam Hamm wrote it is a huge plus because he played a part in the first two. And I think the art is beautiful. You said that already, that the art is great, and it was obviously a passion project for Quinones. So what we think of the story aside, it's worth just picking it up out of curiosity. It's only 6 issues. It's a quick read. It is a little dense. Like I kind of harped on the fact that maybe you might want to read it a couple times because some of the stuff you might miss some of the stuff, or hopefully you're smarter than me and actually pay attention. So you'll be fine if you pay attention and read it the right way, like what an adult would actually read something instead of
but
someone like me.
but again, that goes back to like reading it as if it's a movie, because if it were a movie, all of those payoffs, things from issue 1 and they don't get paid off till issue 6, all that goes down easier if it's a movie, because then
Yeah.
it's only been an hour ago, right? As opposed
Yes.
to months in between reading them.
Yep. Yeah. So yeah, I definitely recommend it. I would give it. I'm going to give it a B. I don't think like I can't give it an A. Even like a B plus feels a little too much, but I think it's a solid B. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I just can't put it on A level because there are some nitpicks and stuff like that. But uh, I think a B is fair for something like this, and I wouldn't be mad if anyone gave it a better grade. But I
Yeah.
think the art it alone is worth, you know, the price of admission, to quote a you know, a cliche. But I
Yeah.
mean, it's a comic book. That's, we read these for the artwork most of the time, and the story is good. It's a great interpretation of Two Face in this world. You get Robin, you get a whole bunch of characters that you remember from the first two. So yeah, I'll give it a B, and definitely recommend picking it up.
All right. Nice. Do you hear this?
Very
Same
nice.
page. Same page. Yeah, I mean, I do really like it. I think that, as is the case with a lot of these things, talking through it made me like it even more,
Hmm.
because it makes us pick out what we really liked and what we didn't. But I do like it. I enjoyed reading it. I'll enjoy revisiting it. And so there's a lot to like about it. And I'm such a sucker for the Burtonverse anyway. I love those two Burton films so much that to get an extension in any way, I think is a gift. And the fact that this is pretty good, I'll take it. You know what? Beggars can't be choosers. And overall, I enjoy the ride. Like I said, it's not perfect. There's certainly nits to pick. Some things I didn't think worked as well as others, but overall, I thought it was ambitious. I loved the art. I thought the story was interesting. There were some really interesting elements to that story, even if it didn't all seamlessly come together. I think that it came together well enough that I enjoy it. But I think after all said and done, I'm going to land where you are, a B, a solid B. It's good, not quite great, but that's okay.
Yep.
So for us, two B's for Batman 89. And like you said, Joe, I think if anybody out there who has not read it yet, now that they're all out there, pick it up or go to the app or whatever's easiest for you. It is worth the read, again, especially if you love those Burton films. This is a great tribute to those, and it's a nice continuation if that's what you're looking for. So I had a good time with it, and I hope you guys enjoy it too. So two B's for Batman 89, and I hope we get a sequel. I hope we get another one. And then one of these days we'll have to do the same for Superman 78. We haven't done that yet. But we're not done talking about Batman yet because we're getting back to the Batman animated series. So it is time to talk about episode 3 of The Batman. Now, it had been a while since we had done one of these, and I apologize. We get distracted, other things happen. But on the last episode, one of our listeners called us out and was like, hey, when do I have to watch the next episode of The Batman? And I was like, yeah, I guess I should do that. I really should. And so this one is for that listener. Bobby, this one's for you. You got to watch it, and we're doing it for you. So this one's season 1, episode 3. It is called Traction. It is directed by Sam Liu, written by Adam Beechin, and it aired on September 25th of 2004. So in this, we get to meet the Batman's version, their new version, of Bane. So these gangsters are tired of the Batman ruining their plans, and so they hire Bane, a masked man, a mysterious masked man, who has, there are legends that he has submitted himself to experiments and he can break the Batman. Because that's what Bane does. That's all he does. He breaks the Batman. What are you going to do when you broke the Batman? Retire? Bane? Come on. Anyway, so he's going to go out there. So he runs into Batman and he pretty much does what he says. He kicks his ass. And we get like a very thin, like totally covered masked version of Bane. And then when he venoms up, he gets really huge and hulks out. And so all of like the black mask and costume, it all sort of splits apart. And then you see like the red skin underneath. So it's a very interesting look for him. But he beats up Batman real bad. Batman ends up in Traction, hence the name, to the point where those cops think that maybe Batman did not survive. And it's pretty close. So he wouldn't go to a hospital. Alfred patches him up as best he can. But before you know it, he's back down in the Batcave working on this big robotic thing that was from Wayne Tech. And he eventually turns that into a Batbot, like fight suit, like a mech suit. And there's a very nice scene where Alfred says something about like, whenever I get called to come pick you up, it's never good news. And then they do this flashback of when Alfred had to go pick him up after his parents were killed, and that was like, I was very impressed with that. I really like that. But anyway, Batman gets in the Batbot and has a rematch with Bane. Bane's still a tough customer, but Batman eventually is able to defeat him by electrifying his venom. And so Bane is taken out and gets taken away. And so Batman is, he mends up, feels better. He's got to be careful, but he is out on the prowl, ready to protect Gotham for another day. And that is Traction. So, Joe, what did you think?
So, I will say Bane's design. I mean, unfortunately, the designs are always what come up on these episodes with this show. The
Yes.
original design of Bane, I think, is cool. It's the hulked out version where at first, when, like you said, the suit expands or whatever, and you see the red skin. At first, I'm like, well, maybe that's not skin. Maybe it's like the suit expands and it's red underneath the suit, and it's like really tight spinning. But then you realize, no, like it's clearly his skin. You could see the veins coming out. I'm like, why would they decide to do that? Like, but you do see his actual skin is normal, other than when he uses the venom. It's a choice, and it's for whatever reason that's what they went for. Maybe just they thought the colors were cool. I don't know, but I will say Bane's voice I love. I think whoever is doing the
Mm-hmm.
voice work for Bane, I think, is really good. Um, I mean, Bane as a character, and this is pretty accurate, other than the fact that he's ginormous and just a weird design. I think the characterization is spot on, though.
Mm-hmm.
The mask is weird because it covers his face completely. Like you
Yeah.
can't. I don't understand. Like if it's supposed to be one of those masks that like, is it like a for lack of a better term, like a stocking mask where like you can't see them but they can see out. Like I don't understand that concept as much, but he looks cool, I guess. I don't know. But the story itself, like you said, the part with Alfred picking up Bruce from the police station after his parents were killed, that's the center of this story. That I I mean, I guess you could say that that's the through line of the show, is you're getting bits and pieces of backstory intertwined with these villains of the week. Now, did you
Mm-hmm.
see that as Jim Gordon, who is giving him
Oh,
to?
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, because we haven't seen Gordon on this show yet, right? Like Gordon doesn't make an appearance yet.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah,
I
that's
don't
true.
think
I didn't
Gordon
even
makes an
realize that,
appearance
but
on the
yeah.
show. I don't think he makes an appearance on the show officially till maybe season 2 or 3, because they were introducing the new uh policeman, which I'm sorry, and Brendan would kill us because I don't remember the name of the woman cop who is a huge part in, again, seasons 1 and 2.
It's like
Um
Ellen Yin, something like
yeah,
that.
it's Commissioner
Yeah,
Yen
Ellen
or
Yin and
Detective Yen.
Bennett. Bennett and Yin. There we have.
Yeah. Bennett plays a big part going forward, if you remember, or if you've ever
Yes,
watched the show.
I do
But
remember. Yeah.
yeah, so I thought that was cool. That, to me, that is clearly Commissioner Gordon that they were giving a nod to. But again, he's not. He doesn't show up in the show for a while.
That's so
So
funny. I just didn't even put that together because I was like, of course it's Gordon, but I forgot we
yeah,
hadn't met him yet.
yeah. So that's why I'm like, huh, like that's got to be just a nod to the people that know, because to everyone else, like it's obviously Commissioner Gordon. But yeah, I mean, it's a pretty straightforward Bane Batman story, other than the whole mech thing. I don't know how you feel about the whole mech suit thing. Is kind of, I don't know. It's very cartoon action in this,
Hmm.
like very over the top cartoon action. Uh,
Yeah.
it's not a other than the Commissioner Gordon scene. It's not a very deep episode. It's
Yes, I agree with you. It's a very basic
yeah,
story of like Bane comes to town, kicks Batman's butt. Batman builds a mech suit, kicks Bane's butt.
yeah,
There's not
yeah.
much else, right? But the one thing that I really was impressed with was that flashback with
Mhm.
Alfred, because I didn't expect it and I thought it was really well done. And the way little Bruce was sitting there in the police station waiting
Yeah.
for someone to come pick him up. and he's like playing with his mother's pearls while he's
Mhm.
waiting. That was great.
Yeah.
And I was really impressed. And I really liked that they didn't go too deep into it, but it was almost a version of the Bruce and Alfred situation from The Dark Knight Rises, where Alfred's like, if you're going to go fight that Bane again, you might have to do it on your own because I can't see you go out there and kill yourself.
Yeah. Yep.
But unlike Rises, he's like, but I can't leave you alone. so, um,
Yeah. Let's not go
but like,
there.
no, and I'm not meaning to go there. I'm just saying,
No,
like,
I know.
it's like it was an interesting similar note, but
Yeah.
I really liked that, and I kind of wish they dug into that even more because that Bruce and Alfred relationship is so good. And I think that's what elevates the episode. I agree
Mhm.
with you about Bane. I think the voice is amazing. I actually kind of like the design. Like, it's one of those things where I sort of promised I'm not going to harp on the new design every single episode because, like, God, that's going
No.
to get boring for everybody.
Exactly.
Um, and this is one that I kind of dig. I really like how he looks when he's not hulked out because you're right. It's like really mysterious. You can't even see any features
Yes.
in his face,
Yep.
just the black mask over his face. I don't know. There's something
And
really cool
the
and creepy
coat,
about that.
yeah, the coat was
Yeah.
really because it's so simple. It's the mysterious nature of it makes it intimidating because you look at this guy and you're like, this is the mercenary,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
there's a reason he has this reputation, and you're intrigued. And I think that's why maybe I am not crazy about the second design because they went so simple with the early design. They went completely opposite direction with the red skin. Like I think the red skin is the only thing that bothers me a little bit, just because it
Yeah.
doesn't make much sense. But it looks cool, and that's clearly what they were going for. Is just the color scheme. I think.
I think so. I think it was just, yeah, red is a weird choice, but it certainly pops. And it certainly provides a lot of contrast compared to Batman's color scheme and even the
Mhm,
backgrounds. And so I think that was the point: is if he's red, he pops, he looks dangerous. It evokes that amongst the cooler backgrounds. And I think that's what they were going for. And when he's hulked out, I would still go, okay, yeah, I guess that's Bane. I
mhm,
still prefer the original design because I always am going to. But as far as a reimagined version, I don't mind this one. And I also got to say the fight scenes between Batman and Bane, because there's a lot of it, and you said a lot of like Saturday morning action. The animation in the fight scene is really good,
mhm.
especially with Batman. Like when he's like throwing everything he's got at Bane, like the
Oh
animation, I was
yeah,
very impressed with.
when they fly off that roof, and then you see the propeller, the propulsion from the suit, and there's a lot
Hmm.
of great stuff with the action in this. And we also got to give props to Alfred. Alfred's jacked. I mean, he carries Batman off that roof with the ladder and everything. Good for
Yeah,
Alfred.
yeah, absolutely. And you're right. As far as the mech suit, not my favorite. Like Batman in a
Yeah.
mech suit, not really my jam, but whatever.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's one of those things too where like Alfred talks to him about, you're gonna have to decide, you might have to fix this city by being Bruce Wayne. And it's a great message, but then it kind of is like, so is the message that Bruce takes from that is that no, I'm just gonna persevere and figure this out as Batman? Like
Yeah,
but like he because he's just not ready to do that yet. He's not ready to not be Batman. And I
right.
get it. It's episode 3. Like he's not giving up on Batman yet. But he persevered, found a way around being injured, and was able to defeat Bane.
Yeah, yeah. I do think it is funny, but I also like it just is what it is. But like the way to defeat Bane is always to attack the connection with the Venom. Always.
At least he didn't cut it. I will say that they at least came up with a different way to do it,
Yeah,
which
to electrify it instead of just cutting it. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. But yeah, there's no way around it. I mean, even we just covered Over the Edge for our show with Eric, and he kind of electrocutes in that.
Oh right, yeah, yeah. Is it on the bat signal?
Well, he actually, I want to say does he put a signal through like a batarang on the pipe, and then he goes into the bat signal, something like that. It's
Something like that. It's been a minute since I've seen it, but
yeah.
all
So
right.
they always have to do something with it. It's fine, and there is some really good stuff, like you said, with the heart in this episode too. But it is just a fun romp of a action episode for a '90s
Yeah,
or for a 2000s cartoon.
for sure. All right. Well, then what would you give it for a letter grade?
I I mean, I always say all my ratings are so trivial. Like everything on Letterboxd is like 4 out of 5 or 3 out of 5. Like everything's just that. It's fine. I'm gonna say B. Like I don't think it's not bad. Like I'd watch it again. Um, but it's also not good enough to get an A. I'll say B. I'd
Yeah,
say
I'm
B, B
I'm I'm
minus,
with you
but I'd
again.
probably say B.
It
Yeah.
feels weird that we gave both things B's, but I think that they both deserve B's. Because the
Like
same.
in
Like
context
I
of the show, like I think the book is probably better than the show, but in context of what the show is doing, it's a B.
yeah, it's a good episode, but nothing
Yeah.
special.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the same.
All
It's
right.
okay. No, that's fine.
Very vanilla.
It's yeah, it's a solid episode with one moment of really great heart, but otherwise it's a fun little actiony episode.
Yeah.
But hey, man, when you said Letterboxd, same. I realized like all my ratings on a Letterboxd are between 2.5 and 4 stars.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
that's what I always say. Like I've said this on podcasts before. Is I'm
Yeah.
like, here's the reality about movies.
Most of them are okay.
There are very few 5-star movies. There are very few 1-star movies.
Mhm.
Most of them are in the middle of pretty good. You know,
Yeah.
most movies are pretty good.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, cool. Well, there you go. That's Traction. Bobby, I hope you enjoyed watching it. Everybody else, you too, but this one's for Bobby. And then the next one up is The Cat and the Bat, and we'll do that in probably about 6 months' time.
Taking our time.
Yeah, we'll take our time leisurely. No, hopefully we'll try to get more in the habit. We've got to do that. Do
Well,
better.
you gotta
But...
every time you have Brendan on, you got to do 2 episodes. I think that's the rule.
Oh, that's a good idea. We can get through quicker that way.
Yeah.
Or on a week like when there's not a lot of news or I don't know what to do, we could just do like a 2 Batman episode, and yeah, it'll help get through it quicker.
You should really just plan it so every time you do this show, Brendan's not on.
That would be like the ultimate revenge. We're finally doing the
horrible.
Batman, but you can't be on any episode where we review it.
And you give every show like a C.
Give every episode's a C-. Sorry, Brendan. All right. Well, again, next one up is The Cat and the Bat whenever we get around to it, but that was Traction. So look at that. I feel so productive today. Finally reviewed Batman 89, got back into the swing in the Batman. Look at us. Getting stuff done. TCB, taking care of business.
And it's funny too, because like you said when we started that it's hard because you say Batman 89, but you have to specify the book. When when Eric first told me about possibly doing this episode, he was like, "Oh, Andy wants to do Batman 89," and I'm like, "For what?" He's like, "Oh no, the comic, not the movie."
Hasn't Andy talked about Batman 89 enough in his life? And the answer
like,
is no.
I'm like, listen, I'm down. I didn't even question. I'm like, I'm down to do it, but for what? Like, is there a reason? And he's like, "Oh no, the book." I'm like,
the book.
Oh, okay, that makes more sense.
The book, yeah, I know. So that's why that one. I try to like go against the grain, and when I'm talking about the movie, I just call it Batman.
Mm-hmm.
But because that is the name of the movie.
Yeah.
But I know that when you say that,
with that then
I know I'm trying. I'll try.
I
think it's a losing battle, but I'll try.
That's like when people don't remember the year that movie came out. I'm like, it's the movie is referred to as Batman 89. How do you not know the year that it came out? But
it's the only Batman movie that is called Batman.
Mm-hmm.
Because 1966 is called Batman the movie.
Yep.
So, just saying.
And now we have the Batman.
We have the same thing. We have the Batman, the movie, the Batman, the show.
Yep. Very clever with their naming.
We need more names. All right. Well, we're not going to do the Wayne Manor mailbox this time because I have more homework to do for more podcasts. My life, it's too much. I'll do it next time, but there's still a few emails in there. So if you're listening and you're like, you haven't read my email yet, it's probably still in there. I'll do it next time. And if you've got something for the Wayne Manor mailbox, you can send that to Holy BatCast at rf4rm.com. I'd love to hear your thoughts, your questions, and everything. So send those in and we will get to them in a future episode very soon. But Joe, this was super fun. Thanks for making the time tonight, talking a little comics, talking a little animation, and going on some tangents as we do, talking about Daredevil, the movie, which I like.
You guys see it. Do you like Elektra? That's the question.
I do. And it made perfect sense to me why she was a ninja.
No, I mean the movie Elektra.
Oh no.
You won't defend that one?
No, that one you're on your own. I can't.
All right.
I went opening night because I was excited about it, but it was not good.
No, it's not. But
And that is not Jennifer Garner's fault because
no,
Jennifer Garner is a national treasure. But they
I'd
just
watch it over some other stuff though. Like it's bad, but I'd watch it. I'm not.
I will say this:
They're
I have
fun.
not seen it since the theater,
Mhm.
so I don't know if it's as bad as I remember. But I've never gone back to it.
Yeah, I've actually seen that more recently than Daredevil, so it's actually more fresh in my mind, which is crazy. But
That is crazy.
yeah, but yeah,
Um,
this was a lot of fun. Thank you so much for having me. I'm glad it worked out because I'm always down to come on here whenever I can, and I'm glad. So thank you.
my pleasure. Yeah, it's good having you. Tell everybody at home where they can find you.
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd as jforn11, and you can find me on Facebook as Joe Fornarotto, Fornarotto. We do I do a podcast with Eric Carter called Batman: The Fire Rises, which if you listen to this, I'm sure you've heard us both on here, and we did the fun crossover with you guys a couple months ago. It's been a while now, actually. It seems like it was just like a few months ago. I don't even remember when that was, but that was a lot of fun. So yeah, if you like Batman podcast, Eric does a really good job over there with that. So
Awesome. Cool. Well, I already told you folks where to find me, but thank you as always for joining us. Thanks for downloading the show or streaming it, whatever. We appreciate you joining and listening, however you listen. Thank you. Please do follow or subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts, and please rate and review the show. That's something that you can do to support us. If you don't want to use the promo code, if you don't want to be a patron, that's okay. I get it. But it costs nothing to leave a nice review, and we would appreciate that. So do that. Visit holybatcast.com. Find Holy BatCast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or YouTube. And again, if you've got something for the Wayne Manor mailbox, you can send that to holybatcast@rf4rm.com. Our theme music was created by Gaurav Venkateshwar. His music and his work can be found at gvtunes.com. And again, if you're going to do some Christmas shopping, go to manscaped.com. And if you're going to buy something, use that promo code BATSCAPED for 20% off and free shipping. That'll do it. On behalf of Joe, Ivan, and Andy, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. Same bat time, same bat channel. Holy BatCast is not affiliated with Warner Brothers or DC Entertainment. The views and opinions shared by the participants are theirs and theirs alone and do not represent the companies or organizations they happen to work for. Okay, great. Here goes.
all right.
Greetings, Bat Family, and welcome back to Holy BatCast. Hold on. I don't know what. There was some noise on your end. What were you doing over there? Okay.
I moved in my seat. I'm trying to not fidget once you start. Go ahead.
Silence. Fidgeting comes to an end. Okay. Done?
Right.
You good?
I'm good.
All right. Swell. Okay. Greetings. Damn it. Okay.